It's 23 minutes past 6. You're listening to the Nick Holt podcast on iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes and Audible. Just a reminder, you can also find that now on nickholt.substack.com. Well, tomorrow is, of course, Australia Day, a day of celebrations for some and a day of mourning for others. I think finding that middle ground between a national celebration and the recognition of what actually did happen to the Aboriginal people on January 26, 1788, to me it seems to have become increasingly difficult due to the politicised nature of this debate. On one side, we have a rather loud and aggressive left-wing, if you will, cohort whose sole drive is to denounce Australia without celebrating it. And on the other side, you've got, I guess, a right, if we want to call it that, a far right, who doesn't want to acknowledge that some of these horrible things happened. Warren Mundine is my guest here tonight. Warren and I spoke earlier in the year about this, possibly last year, I should say. Warren's written extensively and very thoroughly on this topic. Warren is someone who both supports moving the date of Australia Day, but also celebrating Australia Day. Warren, thanks for coming on again.
Thanks a lot, Nick.
I guess my first question is, do you agree with the assessment there in my monologue?
Yes, I do. And I base that, if you're going to have Australia Day, Australians are not very jingoistic. They're not like in America where they've got flags all over the place and on their buildings and houses and everything like that. But we've got a lot to celebrate here. Yes, we got a history, good and bad, and most nations in the world are the same. I don't know any nation that was formed without, having wars or problems or anything, and so, but the important thing for me is about, it's not just about the history. We all should know the history and everything, but it's about how we overcome the bad things and how we keep on doing the good things. And so I judge Australia pretty good on that. I reckon with we've got Indigenous people, we've got the colonists who come out here, we've got British institutions, and we've got and the migrants that come here, especially the millions of migrants who come after the Second World War, and really help kick along our economy. So, and we've got a lot to celebrate about that, and also how we dealt with Aboriginal people in the 60s. We got the full voting rights in 62. We got the 67 referendum, and within a short period of time, 1970, all the Aboriginal discriminatory laws were removed, and in another 2 years you had Senator Neville Bonner from Queensland in the Senate. And so, look, there's a lot of things to celebrate there. Plus, when I was a kid, I remember John Moriarty and Charlie Perkins come to our town, and I was only a young kid, and all the adults were whispering about these young university students. And we were thinking, what's a university? We don't know what a university was. But now, you've got thousands of Aboriginals who have been through university, and I think there's currently about 16,000 in studying at the moment within universities. And so that's a celebration. We've got doctors, lawyers and engineers and a whole wide range of different people, and that's what we should be celebrating, and also the Aboriginal culture, how we look at Aboriginal culture today, and write about it and put it in the history, and that's another celebration.
Absolutely. I think it is an opportunity to celebrate that. I mean, I think there's a lot to celebrate about this country, but I'm not convinced that there is such a thing as Australian culture in the sense that we're not as old as, say, the Chinese or the Europeans. We're a very young culture, so we have potentially a little bit of an identity crisis, and Australia Day maybe brings that out in some people. I think that most people just want to have a day off and neck a few beers, to be honest.
Typical Australians. We love our public holidays. That was one of the problems I had when I thought that we have a recommendation that, because Australia is 1901, the 1st of January 1901, which is New Year's Day, and that's a public holiday already, and I didn't want to give up the Australia Day holiday.
That's right. And I'll read that passage because I think it's a good one. You wrote here in 2019 on the Daily Telegraph, you wrote that if you follow my writing, you know I support moving Australia Day to January 1st, the anniversary of Federation and the actual date on which Australia Day was founded. For me, 26th of January signifies conflict and conquest.
My wife's just on the
phone. No worries.
She's gone. Yeah.
No problem. So you've said here basically, you want to move it to you support moving it to the 1st, the 26th to be commemorated and kept as a public holiday. I think that's a good idea. It's difficult though to have these sort of conversations because there's so much polarisation around this.
Yeah, I think. Look, that's true, and I think we need to settle down a bit and just acknowledge the good and the bad of our history, and teach about it, and and look at what governments and that are doing today. Like in New South Wales, here there's something like 5,000 Aboriginal kids who are not only learning English, but they're learning their own Aboriginal languages. Something like 25 different Aboriginal languages in New South Wales. I think that's a positive step, and it's a positive step of people who, because language is not only just words; it actually ties you to your history, whether you're Italian, Greek, or Aboriginal, and it ties you back to your your country and your soil. And look, I see a lot of different migrants in that here who are very proud Australians. But, you can see when they're talking their own language, the pride that comes out. So I think that's a positive step, and we need to celebrate that. And that's why I talked. And also the 26th is an important day. It's always going to be an important day because we can't ignore it. That was the day that Arthur Phillip sailed into Sydney Harbour and really set up the colony and moved forward. Now, there are a lot of Australians who are descended from that. A lot of them didn't want to be in a boat. They were in chains and were brought out here. And they're proud of their history, and they're proud of their, the survival and how they moved from convicts into the Australian society. And so that's always going to be a day that we have to acknowledge. You can't ignore it.